I think it's a great sign. It proves what we've been saying all along, what individuals like Michael Yon have been saying, quite frankly, which is that it's undeniable that the surge has been successful. We're seeing dramatic reduction in violence. We're seeing the Iraqi people are starting to trust their government. The Iraqi people, former insurgents that I fought against 2-3 years ago, are now the sons of Iraq, and they are now participating in their own government. I think this is a positive sign.
It's good. It does portray what the problems are in Iraq. The recommendations, there are some things that should give us pause.
Like what?
Well, for one, the reaction that we see many of the terrorist leaders that have come out and said. One was quoted as saying, "This is a great day for Islam," a terrorist leader. Another one was quoted as saying, "This report was sent by Allah and his angels." Now that may be extreme and that may be true or not, but one thing is for certain. If our enemies think it is a good thing, we need to ask ourselves why.
On Memorial Day in 2003, one of my best friends was leading a convoy. His name's Matthew Schramm. Was leading a convoy for the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment, and was ambushed. And if you ever know, anybody in the room ever knew Matt, he did everything right, always. And it was one of the things as a sort of a peer that you'd want to hate about the guy, but never could because he was such a nice guy. Did everything right. So during this, he was leading this convoy, and it wasn't his troops, but he did everything right. He turned his vehicle into the ambush and was returning fire, and took 2 bullets through his armpit where there's no body armor coverage, and died. But he did what he set out to do, which is break up the ambush and save everybody else in the convoy. It was at his funeral that I learned that there was a reporter from a major Newsweekly magazine in that convoy, and the reporter never wrote a story about my friend Matt.
That's a good point. Now, you forced me to point out that you guys did put out a pretty heinous video of snipers of the insurgents killing U.S. troops on CNN. So you guys, to some extent, helped them with their own propaganda. Now, the U.S. has never been good at information warfare. It's probably the weakest part of our military toolbox. And another difficulty is anytime the military gets involved in trying to change the information war, it becomes a question of, is this propaganda, and is this a proper thing for the Defense Department or the military to be doing to attempt to change the information scene and the way the information is put out. So I think there's a difficulty in doing it. I think it should be our biggest focus. We should be carpet bombing the Middle East with iPods full of good things about America and positive aspects that we are doing for their cultures, and we do a terrible job of it.
Vote Vets going after Rush Limbaugh, I'm a Red Sox supporter. If they lose tonight, I'm not going to go after ESPN. It makes no sense to me whatsoever, this thing. We have a war going on, and Vote Vets thinks that we're losing it or whatever. Stay focused on the mission. Focus on the troops who are coming back. I applaud all the soldiers who have served over there, but it appeared to me, anyway, that Rush was referring to phony veterans, like Macbeth, like the guy who had pre-traumatic stress disorder, who wrote for the New Republic, who had combat stress when he was in Kuwait. I mean,
Mark, let me ask you about what critics have said, though, that and Rush Limbaugh says that he was taken out of context, and what he says is that he was referring to people like Jesse Macbeth. But critics say, well, then why did Rush say phony soldiers, using the plural, instead of phony soldier, referring to Jesse Macbeth? And why is it that Jesse Macbeth was not mentioned in the original radio interview until like about 2 minutes after he started talking about phony soldiers? Do you have an explanation for that?
I don't. I can only go off what I read on Limbaugh's site and on other sites, and I have friends who told me Macbeth was actually mentioned before. There's a couple explanations that at least seem plausible to me, one of which is being that Operation Stolen Valor that the VA just recently ran netted a whole bunch of people who were faking their military careers. You had Jimmy Massey. Vote Vets got taken in by a guy named Josh Lansdale. And
Brandon?
Josh Lansdale was doing Vote Vets ads and claiming that he wasn't able to get things from the VA.
Let me allow